Fresh off a huge win at the NHRA U.S. Nationals, we're going to check in with Clay Millican. But before that, we're going to touch base with the ones and onlys, Blake Housley and Scott Higgs from Flying H Drag Strip, just a couple of weeks away from their big $150,000 Smackdown Pro Mod event. We got a ton of stuff to cover today on the Wes Buck Show. Let's do this thing, T. Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. Hope you're doing well out there in the drag racing world. It's been a barn burner of a weekend in this sport that we all know and love. There it is, man. First appearance of the iconic barn burner terminology. But we absolutely had a barn burner, a couple of barn burner events this weekend. Of course, I'm talking about the YellowBullet.com Nationals at Jim Halsey's Cecil County Dragway in Maryland. And of course, the historic, since 1961, 70 years strong, the most prestigious drag race on the planet Earth, the NHRA U.S. Nationals, the big go. If you're in the know about these things, it's the big go. What a weekend we had, man. JT and I got to take in a couple of days at the U.S. Nationals, had a big time, started off the weekend at Cruz Pedregon's big car show and meet and greet at his race shop there in Brownsburg, Indiana. And what a big time, man. These guys really pull out. If you have not been, it's a massive endeavor being a part of the NHRA U.S. Nationals. It's an event that spans essentially an entire week, and it's nonstop action. There's always something going on, events within events within events, and all sorts of get-togethers and happenings. But one for us here at Drag Illustrated that's become a high priority item is Cruz Pedregon's car show on Thursday night at his shop there in Brownsburg, right in Nitro Alley, a beautiful facility. For those that don't know, used to be Kenny Bernstein's race shop. This shop was like it was the Taj Mahal of race shops in Brownsburg, but kind of early on in the process, as more and more teams were making their way from wherever they were from, be it somewhere on the East Coast or somewhere out on the West Coast, making their way to the greater Indianapolis area. It's a beautiful facility that Cruz Pedregon took over, and he was generous enough to ask us to come out and be a part of it. We signed a bunch of autographs, hung out with a ton of fans, and got to spend some time with a bunch of different drivers. And then we hung out afterwards with Ryan Ayler, Flying Ryan, and the El Bandito Yankee Tequila squad, and had ourselves a big time. And just great way to start off the weekend that is the U.S. Nationals, man. I'll tell you guys, 903 cars, I think, was the total or thereabouts. You're trying to keep track of it, but I really spent a lot of time just kind of not reminiscing, but just basking in the fact that there were 900 race teams in Indianapolis, Indiana this past weekend, not to mention several hundred other race teams at the YellowBullet.com Nationals in Cecil County. And like, these are two amidst hundreds of drag racing events that were happening this past Labor Day weekend. And it just was like a pinch me moment to think about how many good things are happening in our sport and how many exciting things are happening in our sport. Matter of fact, this is a great segue, and we'll use this as an opportunity to introduce my cohorts here on the Wes Buck Show, Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson. Guys, we just rolled out a brand new issue of the magazine. Shout out to everybody on the Drag Illustrated team. It's damn near a dozen deep at this point. But my goodness, it takes everybody to make this thing rock and roll. We got the new issue of the magazine, Drag Illustrated DI 190, sent out to the publishing house in Denver, Colorado. late last week, and it'll be in mailbox.
Yeah, I'm glad you used that segue, man. Reasons to be excited about drag racing. I thought if he doesn't use this, man, it's a golden opportunity missed. So
it felt like a layup. Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like a layup, man.
This was a cool deal, man, because we actually did this about 15 years ago. We did a smaller list a handful of years ago, actually, but we did a 25 reasons to be excited about drag racing way back, I believe, in like 2009. Very early on. So we kind of brought that back. This is a lot of the same typography and design from that issue. We sort of borrowed our own work and threw it together again, and really excited about it. Like you said, all the you want to hear about all the doom and gloom and tracks closing and the economy and the election and all this stuff, man. But there's so much to be excited about in the entire sport of drag racing right now.
I truly believe
that the track.
I mean, it's like when you're at the racetrack, I mean, and you're right. We did this for the very first time a decade and a half ago. And I was blown away. Like I told you guys that I wanted to do a 25 reasons to be excited about the sport of drag racing, and like just do the hard work, because it's easy, as you were saying, Mike, to identify everything that's wrong. Right. Like it's easy to pick things apart. It's easy it's the low hanging fruit, like all these issues and all these different things that are going on in our sport. But the real good work, the Lord's work, the hard work, the work that's worth doing is spending the time and energy required to look around our sport and try to take stock of the fact of all the incredible things that are happening in our sport right now. I mean, it's obviously we got John Force on the cover, kind of.
Yeah, even that's an example. I mean, that's an example of looking through the headlines here. And of course, everyone is, concerned about John and is upset about what happened to him earlier this year at VMP. But we took that and tried to shed a different light on it and take a look back at the influence he's had and some where it goes from here and
where this dude, I mean, for those, I'm telling you, it's hard to really quantify the impact that John Force has had on our sport in a multitude of different ways, from, just his competitive spirit and the success that he's had on the racetrack, 16-time world champion, innumerable record-setting moments, firsts, but really driving the bus on multi-car teams, driving the bus on corporate sponsorships, driving the bus for being a meaningful brand ambassador for Fortune 500 and corporate America based companies, being a storyteller and a showman. I mean, so many things that we can point to, the next generation and developing kind of the next crop of characters, the next up and coming stars, a race operation that spans the entire country, a location in Southern California out in Yorba Linda, while also having a secondary location in Brownsburg, Indiana, like just multiple teams, multiple crew guys, the brain trust, all the different things that happened in the sport of drag racing on the shoulders of this man. It felt like an opportunity for us to give credit to somebody who deserves an endless amount of credit for what he's accomplished in our sport. But like you said, the real story in DI 190 and what we were proud to talk about is all the various things that are happening in the sport of drag racing. I mean, if you run through it, and I don't want to spoil the read of the issue, but these are things that are worth mentioning, like Pro Modified, like where we're at right now with Pro Modified as a category. This is a brand of drag racing that Drag Illustrated wouldn't exist without. This was the type of racing that we saw early on back in the mid 2000s and go, man, these guys and gals need better representation. They need someone to get excited about what they're doing. We need more promotions, better promotions. We got to do whatever we can, because even way back then we felt the writing was on the wall and that this was the future of drag racing. So, from the PDRA and the Midwest Drag Racing Series to the NMCA, the Big Dog Shootout Series at Piedmont, Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods. I mean, there's so many great things going on in Pro Modified drag racing, not to mention the multitude of big money events that are happening in the country. The place NHRA Pro Mod finds itself pretty much the last place to race quarter mile. Pro Modified has become a marquee attraction. I'm proud of our contribution to that, but I can tell you guys we're just getting started. But I mean, we've got new fresh faces in Nitro. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we had Ida Zetterstrom here on the show talking about the crop of characters that exist in the Rookie of the Year competition this year. I mean, there's a lot of big names that are making their presence felt in Top Fuel and Funny Car. I mean, you got Jasmine Salinas, Ida Zetterstrom, Krista Baldwin, Cody Crone, Travis Shoemake. I mean, even Justin Ashley, who's been around for like quite a while, won't turn 30 until this winter. I mean, there's a lot of young people involved with the sport. Not to mention you got people like Tony Stewart, who we all know are nothing even remotely close to a rookie, but just to see him in the mix is a pretty impactful thing right now. We're seeing No Prep Kings drag racing evolve in a meaningful way. I've been following along the last several races that they've had their West Coast swing, packing these tracks out. I mean, tens of thousands of people showing up to these events. No matter what you say or feel about where Street Outlaws No Prep Kings style drag racing is, ticket sales tell me that they're still doing really well. We're celebrating 70 years at the NHRA US Nationals. I mean, just to think about all the history that's come from that. Pro stock competition and the pro stock category as a whole just looks great right now. A
youth
great
movement in the what we always call the good old boys country club of
Dude,
drag
pro
racing.
stock used to be nothing but like good old boys in slip-on shoes and smoking cigars. I mean, it was V Gaines and Troy Coughlin. I mean, that was kind of the air about it. Warren Johnson, like these older kind of statesmen of our sport. But now, if you pay close attention to NHRA Pro Stock, like they're all teenagers. I mean, there's so many young people involved in Pro Stock, and I don't know. There's a lot of credit to go around. I mean, I think you got to give credit to Elite Motorsports, Richard Freeman and the gang, Greg Anderson.
Thanks to the entire Quadra family. If if your last name's Quadra, you're in pro stock.
You're racing pro stock. I mean, there's so many things that are happening in the sport of drag racing right now that are positive. I mean, we talked
a lot of this small tires, big money that's here on the cover as well. A lot of this coverage, if you flip through the magazine, focuses on this stuff that's off the radar, the small tires, the no prep, back half stuff. What else? Front wheel drive, import, just all, all bases. But really what it comes back to for me is door cars and independent events. And of course that's covered in depth here in this issue as well. But the things that we get excited about, and I think the things that are really showing the growth in the sport basically fall under those categories. And that's what we focused on.
No, I mean, it's really crazy to think about all these things. I mean, I run down the list because I do think that, I mean, based on the emails that we get here at Drag Illustrated, it seems like there's hardly a day that goes by that I'm not identified or I don't see another problem identified. I got a great email today from a longtime reader of the magazine, a longtime follower of the show here, that was talking about the emerging electronic vehicle technology and how it wouldn't be very long before there were no more nitro cars and there were no more combustion engines in drag racing. It was all going to be battery powered. And I read it and I thought, I appreciate the concern, but I do think an equal amount of effort could be poured into looking at all the incredibly positive things that are going on in our sport. Like, there's no doubt that there will be some impact felt in drag racing by electronic vehicles, but I honestly don't, or electric vehicles, but I honestly
it's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while.
It's going to be a long while.
It's going to be a long while. And if you look around and are a student in the motorsport space right now, Nitro Cross is experimenting with this right now with their indoor rally races with electric cars, and it's not being well received.
Well, the automotive industry as a whole appears to be taking a little bit of a step back from this huge push
because they took a huge hit.
Yeah, they're kind of seeing the writing on the wall already of this huge push that they've made for electric vehicles, and they're sitting on lots going unsold, the price of them, maintenance, repairs, all those things that we've talked about and that you hear about in the news. I just don't think everyone's quite ready for that. I think
there was free money out there for that, though. And that's why the big push.
Well, it
happened,
takes.
I think.
And
then when that dries up, though, I'm not going to invest in this myself. You got to be, they ain't selling, I ain't investing.
You can't force things that aren't ready, and that applies to the automotive industry, but also to racing. I think you'll see some more and more electric vehicles, and maybe like in a exhibition level or some kind of class dedicated to those, like we've seen at your local track. You've seen some Teslas showing up, or you've seen the the electric Mustang that Bob Tasca drove. Things like that. But for it to completely go away, not soon.
No, I mean, I don't think it's happening anytime soon. I mean, it's even if you just look at the infrastructure that is required to charge these things up at like a street use capacity, I just don't know that. I don't think this is going to happen as fast as perhaps anybody thinks it's going to happen, right? Like there's no doubt we're going to see, and I'm kind of along the thinking that I'm a big fan of technology. Like I consider myself something of a tech guy. On the show. You know, I'm passionate about it. I want all the latest, greatest electronics. Like I get a kick out of that stuff. I'm fascinated by it. I subscribe to all the blogs.
Did you get your email fixed yesterday?
Yeah,
by the way?
Dude, I'm having
I'm
a hell
the
of a
tech
go around.
support.
I'm having a hell of a time with my email on my phone, bro.
My first reply was going to be, I didn't know you even checked your email.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Yes, of course I check my email.
No, I agree, man. And what about like haulers and you know, stuff like that? I mean, any kind of high load, high torque type of situation like that. I mean, we're not ready for all that. But
I mean, there's a whole world of people that like depend on it. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes we get like caught up in that tech thing and don't really think about the human cost. You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, there are how many truck drivers, how many people that work in these various communities and work in these various things. And it makes no sense to just nullify their existence overnight or whatever. There's just no.
You've been corrected, Mike. He does check his email and he responds.
Oh man,
thanks,
Dana. You must have some kind of. You must have the bat,
bro. If a drag racer sends me an email or a race car person, they're gonna hear back from me. Like if I miss one, it surely happens, no doubt about it. And I've been screwed up for like 3 days. When I landed in Indy, I have no idea what happened. I did admittedly update my phone to the new operating system, and I don't know if this is classic new software, old hardware. Like, because my phone's like a year old, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, I don't know if it's something that it's broken, where new software, old hardware, and now my email.
We'll diagnose it after the call, after the show here. I forgot that you asked me about that yesterday. We'll get you fixed.
Well, I actually just switched to using Gmail, and I'm big on using the apps that are supplied by Apple. Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to
use the Gmail app. I got to use the built-in one.
We got to get that fixed. But right now I'm broken down, and here's some financial projections for another company. I probably should close that out. That's why. It's a thing that opens up on my screen. That's not great. But anyways, man, what a weekend in Indy, JT. It was fantastic to see you. For those that don't know, I do believe we're going to be joined here not too terribly long from now, a little bit, about 30 minutes after the hour, by Scott Higgs and Blake Housley from Flying H Drag Strip outside of Kansas City. As a Midwestern boy myself, a Missouri boy myself, I can't tell you how exciting it is to see a world-class drag racing facility in that area. I mean, there's a lot of great tracks in and around the Missouri, Iowa, Illinois area. There's a lot of, iconic facilities, but it's great to see Kansas City have a world-class drag strip. And it sounds like we got somebody joining us in the green room right now. So we'll give them a couple of minutes to get comfortable here. But man, it was I'm genuinely excited about this, and I'm looking forward to coming out there next month, or later this month. How in the hell is it September, you guys?
It's crazy, man.
I love it though. I'm ready.
I am too.
October. It's record setting season. It's the race schedule. There's a race, it seems like, every damn weekend, whether it's NHRA, Pro Mod. Man, everybody's piling the races in right now, understandably so, because this is when you want to race. You don't want to race a lot of times in July and August, but here comes September, October, November, even
I'm in,
or December, January, February, March. Really any month. that's not the dead heat of summer. At this point, there is no off season.
Bro, it was hot in Indy. I'm going to tell you, while we get our guests,
let's recap some of the stuff that happened in Indy here.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it might as well. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to talk about that I thought was like especially interesting personally was just the lay of the land in NHRA Pro Stock. I mean, you got Aaron Stanfield doubles up, takes the win in Pro Stock competition at the U.S. Nationals, as well as Holly EFI Factory X Eliminator. First double up at Indy. And this kid's a generational talent. I mean, I think that we could spend a tremendous amount of time talking about Gage Herrera and what he accomplished this weekend. But before we get there, I got to tell you that I do feel we're seeing something similar. We've all known what Aaron Stanfield was capable of for a long time now. And but to see him really coming into his own, owning it, I sense some confidence about him that I don't know that he's lacked in the past, but it feels like it's closer to the surface. Does that make sense, guys? Like I think he's always been
such a quiet
confident guy.
Yeah, just a
but
quiet
it
confidence.
does feel like it's a little closer to the surface, and just absolutely awesome to see him perform at the level that he did. I'm just watching the whole thing unfold. There was matching elapsed times to the 1,000th, 2 pairs in a row in Pro Stock. The final, Jed Coughlin Jr. going up against Aaron Stanfield, a 656 with a 1 to a 656 with a 2. I mean, the racing that we're seeing in Pro Stock, for all the naysayers and all the haters that love to pile on with the Pro Camaro or blah, 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 we've got something really special happening in NHRA Pro Stock.
Look
right
past
now.
the car. I mean, that we
Dude,
say it all
the
the time.
cars don't matter.
Cars really
I'm telling you, the cars, like, listen, I think the cars are fantastic and they're important, right? Like, if the cars sucked, if they looked funny, if they weren't fast, if they were boring, I mean, I totally get it. You know what I mean? I totally get it. But the cars are fast, and it's really about the characters behind the wheel.
They've all been this way. I mean, Erica talked about that the other week. Yeah. Even if it's a Mustang or any other manufacturer, it's going to be built out of the same mold. I mean, they're not going to give up dramatic differences here for the body style. And when's the last time you could identify a funny car, by anything else other than the graphics on the front? I mean,
but they're having to drive these, cars, and they're having to treat the guy in the other lane. That you have to have the light. It's and pick a side. I mean, this is one of the best rivalries we've seen for years and years, right? I mean, you got the KB camp and you got the elite camp. I mean, get behind one and ride.
I'm telling you, I actually think that when the cars are similar, I think it's even more exciting to have the opportunity, because the door's wide open for it to be all about the drivers, because the cars are relatively similar. And I don't think that's all bad. I mean, the beauty of Pro Modified, and one of the things that I think makes our class so special, is that the cars are extremely diverse and exotic, and they look different. And you got, big wings, small wings, Pro Stock style spoilers, but you've also got the big picnic tables. You got, blowers sticking through the hood. You got flat hoods. You've got all that. But when you don't have that, and you've got this crop of characters, man, I look at the Pro Stock ranks right now, and I see a lot of colorful characters. I mean, we saw right here on this very program last weekend, Erica Enders, she's got the gift of gab. She's a great character, great personality, and one hell of a drag racer. Dallas Glenn. I mean, we got Sienna Wild guest in the conversation. We got the Quadra boys. I mean, what a job Christian Quadra did. I don't know if you guys saw that first round matchup that he had against Dallas Glenn in round 1. Goes 008 on the tree. The car makes the move from basically the wall to the center line and back. All over creation in a Pro Stock car, which is typically low downforce race car, not wanting to do a lot of seesawing on the wheel and those things. But he fought the good fight, got the win. Really incredible job. But when you go down through the rankings there, I mean, this racing is absolutely fantastic. Greg Anderson still in his prime. I mean, this is a guy that is qualified number 1 at the NHRA US Nationals. Looked like he was the guy to beat. Mason McGay, fresh off a really impressive performance in Brainerd, going all the way to the final round on a series of hole shots. I mean, there's
Camry's
some really
back.
Corey Reed, Camry Caruso. Yep. I mean, Corey Reed, nobody.
Camry got us for a couple $100, didn't she?
Yeah, man. Camry did get us for a couple
late
$100.
edition. I saw that on your story. Yeah, man. Corey Reed is I'm going through and picking on Drag Race Bracket Bonanza and get to Corey Reed first round. I'm like, I'm going Corey Reed on this one, man, because he's been hot lately. Dallas Glenn. I mean, you talked about Christian Quadra taking out Dallas Glenn. That's somebody who's been really obviously hot all year with his points lead. But to me, it comes back to Aaron Stanfield. We saw him win, I forget what it was, 4 in a row or 5 out of 6 or something back in the middle of the year. And if that continues on, if this momentum that he maybe has regained here with Indy continues through the rest of the year, he's going to be tough to stop, in my opinion.
He won me a little money.
I'm telling you what, man, I don't know that I honestly don't know that there's anybody. It would be really hard to bet against Aaron right now. I don't want to jinx the young man, but I mean, he just does. Like I said, the confidence is close to the surface. He's always been this quiet, soft-spoken guy that wouldn't say shit with a mouthful, but then I can see him kind of coming out of his shell a little bit, and I could sense it amongst the team. Casey Freeman, like the whole group there, like swinging by and spending some time with them on Friday afternoon. Like there's some mojo there. There's some momentum there. There's something happening. And I think a lot of times that momentum and getting into the rhythm of winning and knowing what it's like to be there late in the day on Sunday or Monday afternoon, in the case of the Indy, the NHRA US Nationals, you start to you settle into that mindset that like, hey, we're not here hoping to go a round or two. We're here to load this thing up after the finals and wipe the champagne off of it.
I think the whole time we were over there and it was hot and they were double, triple checking everything, I mean, just almost.
And that's how these things happen, man, where it's like once you get where the car's fast and the driver's delivering on a consistent basis, because that's like talking to Casey Freeman between rounds. It was right before, I think, Q2. And he's like, Aaron's on fire right now. Like Aaron, he's a bad dude right now. And I think that when they start to feeling that, it almost puts more onus on the prior preparation, where like, okay, the car's running good,
and it's we're getting now. It's championship time. Also, there's no more. You can't have any mistakes. But look at the points coming out of that race. So got Dallas Glenn in first, then Aaron, then Greg, then Erica. So it's KB Elite,
which is awesome.
It's mixed down through there.
That is awesome.
Yep. Let's talk about Pro Stock Motorcycle too. That was another interesting one. I mean, obviously Gage Herrera, not much more to be said there.
Nope.
Good to see some other bikes running strong. We saw obviously Matt and Angie, and then Angie in the finals as well.
So Gage Herrera.
But how about this?
Man,
how about this
perfect
zip
reaction time in the final, guys? I mean, okay, so think about, like, let me provide some context for those of you that are like just joining us. Like Gage Herrera has won over a dozen races this year. He goes into the NHRA US Nationals. He's got the field covered by like 6 numbers, but still goes into the final against Angie Smith, right? Fierce competitor, motivated competitor, chip on her shoulder. I mean, that's nothing unusual for Matt and Angie Smith. I mean, this is a group of people that got, drag racing in their DNA, and he rolls up there in the final and goes trip zip, perfect reaction time, runs a 675. I mean, I'm going.
Did you see the piece on?
You can't ask.
Yeah.
I mean, this is.
Well, there was a piece,
and then how can you compete against that?
Yeah. Well, there was a piece. Competition Plus actually ran a story that someone in the media did ask Gage about this during his winner's media appearance. They were basically like, what was that about? And what was that something? Are you out there to prove something? Was that geared toward your opponent, or what was that? And I think for one of the first times we've seen, Gage said, yeah, it was, those guys over there are always chirping, calling us sandbaggers, or the rivalry is heated between those two camps. And so he actually admitted that he did go up there wanting to lay down a reaction time like that just to make a statement. So again, which I think is fantastic. It's great to hear that come from Gage Herrera. So another one that's a lot like Aaron Stanfield, which is just a once in a generation driving talent, but we don't hear a lot from on the mic or after one of these big wins. But so for him to say that, I like to hear that, and I want to hear more of that as we.
And I gotta tell you, man, let's keep watching a little bit of these replays, and we can talk about how this feels like it's starting to unfold in every category. Because if you take this final round in NHRA Nitro Funny Car between Ron Capps and Austin Prock, you see Austin Prock take the win at the U.S. Nationals. I mean, there's so many stories here alone. I mean, you've got Jimmy Prock tuning the car. You got the grandpa on the property. You got Austin in the car driving. You got his brother, assistant crew chiefing on the car.
Did you not think, though, that there was something to this snake throwback body? I kind of regretted on my drag race bracket bonanza that I didn't have Ron Capps advancing further, because as he was marching through the field for the second straight year with the snake body, I'm like, there's something to this, and he's going to win it again. So that was really cool to see, even though it didn't quite pan out that way.
Did I tell you guys that I called Matt Smith on accident the weekend before last?
Yeah. At 2:15 in the morning, or
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Today we just marked another one off.
Can you hear us, JT?
Can you hear me?
I mean,
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
sorry.
Yeah.
We
Well,
want to
I,
hear about this story.
I called. I woke up and a buddy of mine is also named Matt Smith, and we were in a golf tournament, and so I called, and I knew he was out till like at a bachelor party till like 4 or 5 a.m. Reason I knew that because I was with him, and I called him to ask him if he was up and around. I'm like, "Yo, Matt, you ready to go?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." and then he goes, "JT, I think you got the wrong Matt Smith." And I looked down at my phone.
I'm talking to Pro Stock Motorcycle champ icon Matt Smith.
Who was probably on the dyno while you guys were out drinking at 4 or 5 in the morning.
But listen to this line real quick from Austin Prock in his top end interview after winning the NHRA US Nationals. Shout out to Toyota and everybody involved. But I would love to see, love for you to hear this comment, because it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Mike, about Gage Herrera having a little something to prove there in the final round against Angie Smith.
Everyone knew I was back. Thank you.
You hear that? I'm going to give this to you one more time here. I wanted to make sure everybody knew I was back. Listen to this.
Everyone knew I was back. Everyone. I wanted to make sure everyone knew I was back. Thank you. Woo!
And I just think he's fired up, right? And I think that it's interesting because I do feel like there is an air of competition.
I mean, he's been really dominant all season, right? But he is hard on himself. Have you seen some of his post-race interviews, like when he had a bad reaction time, I think in one round of eliminations here recently? I mean, he was all over himself. And so he is one of those deals where his toughest critic is himself. Probably is what makes him great.
Because I would argue he is having
career.
I mean, obviously there's Gage Herrera operates in rare air at this moment in time. But I would argue that we are seeing something genuinely special, like genuinely I mean, this is something we will talk about years from now, the introduction to Nitro Funny Car that Austin Prock is having. I mean, this is starting off the season, winning the biggest drag race that had ever been held, the highest payout professional drag race that had ever been held, at $250,000 to win Nitro Funny Car final down in uncharted waters at Bradenton Motorsports Park, roll into the 2024 Mission Foods NHRA Drag Racing Series season and just be an absolutely dominating force throughout the course of the season, the regular season. I think we're seeing something. It's weird, the level of, with all these people that are running good and all the people that have had high spots this year. I mean, there are some real dominant teams developing in professional level drag racing. Yes. Like, I don't know that we'll ever see anything like what Gage Herrera is doing again, ever. Perhaps. I don't know that this will ever be replicated. But even Austin Prock, a very similar, it's incredible what Austin Prock's doing, especially with Funny Car as competitive as it is.
We may not have ever saw it, right? I mean, if Robert Hite wouldn't have stepped away this year.
Yeah, be there, no doubt, man. I mean, and it's like Drag Racing Mayhem, fantastic comment. And I see the Bowmans checking in. What's up, Christy? And Mike Bowman. Austin Prock says Drag Racing Mayhem is what happens when a professional racing driver gets in the best car. And, I've actually argued many times that I think Robert Hite is one of the best that we've seen in many moons here in the Nitro ranks. But be there, no doubt, you've got a real deal, hyper confident drag racer, a hyper confident wheelman in Austin Prock, climbing behind the wheel of the fastest car arguably on the property, or amongst the fastest cars on the property. And he's going to be a problem. And you can sense that he's got that belief, that he truly believes that he's the one, right? I mean, and I'm sure he's feeling some like spiritual, crazy shit going on, because with John Force kind of being out of, the spotlight right now, I mean, this feels like a God thing. I mean, here comes this verbose, super confident, chest puffed out young drag racer.
He is doing so well, and he does have a good car, and he is a little bit younger. So that's got to get to you at some point. Like if you do mess up yourself, then you feel bad for the people on your team that have done so well.
Yeah, and I don't know that, like, there's a great question here from Drag Racing Mayhem. Does Hite get back in? Because if I'm JFR, I'm keeping Austin in that car as for long as he wants to be in it. And to be honest with you, knowing what I do about the challenge that is creating a harmonious relationship between car, driver, crew, all these various parts and pieces that are on these hot rods. Yeah, I don't know that I'm taking Austin Prock out of that hot rod for any reason for the foreseeable future. I mean, that's my opinion. I think that guy's got a ride in that hot rod.
Maybe you get another hot rod.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a part-time deal. I mean, it would not surprise me if Robert Hyde at this point is ready to kind of start, focusing on the business side even more and do something like a limited race schedule or something along those lines. So you can't with the way Austin's driving, has been since day one.
We'll come back to some of this later, but let's go ahead and get to our guests here.
Yes, let's do that. Before we dive into our first guest of the day here on the Wes Buck Show, I do want to take a quick second to remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com today and make sure you tell them we sent you. I'm actually, guys, I got a little bit of news here. I'm about to throw on my SFI 20 fire suit from Stroud Safety this afternoon and head out to Extreme Raceway Park and make a couple of shakedown runs tonight. So if the good Lord's willing and the weather clears up, it hasn't rained here in Texas in like 3 months, but it has rained for the last 48 hours continuously. So hopefully it blows over here, and I'll be taking my Stroud fire suit, Stroud blanket, Stroud seat belts, and Stroud parachute over to Extreme Raceway Park and seeing what we can do, man.
Oh, we're rooting for you.
What are you going to do without your crew and crew chief?
I'm sure to be able to go racing without you guys. Yeah, okay. I will. Let's set up a Zoom call.
Okay.
For 7-ish, which should be about the first time I'm making a lick. I'll have a Zoom fired up. I'll bring my laptop. Okay.
Somebody needs Jimmy Dale, or if you're going to be there, get some video. We at least need some documentation of this.
Yeah, we'll have some. Tommy Cunningham's in here telling me about time. So yeah, it's been.
I know. Tommy's like, yeah, we're getting him all set up with all this gear, and I think he's just, it's gonna be
just
for
collecting
show.
it.
It's gonna be exhibition, display.
Man. I'm fired up, man. And Tommy gave me the fire suit off of his back. I mean, it even has his name on it. So that's the kind of guy you get when you're dealing with Tommy Cunningham and the team at Stroud Safety. They're the type of guys that give you the fire suit off their back. And he literally did that. So I had to lose a little weight. I'm down about 12 pounds now so I could fit into Tommy Cunningham's fire suit.
Did you have to roll the cuffs up on the pants also?
I had to hold my breath to get it zipped. I said... about got it zipped up. So anyways, I'm hoping to
grilled chicken and gotta get rid of that macaroni and cheese.
If we run a 4-second anything tonight, I'm gonna be happy. So like I just wanted to run in the 4s and then we can go just in the 4s, in the 8th mile, and we'll be good, guys. Well, hey, without any further ado, we've got some major news coming up here in the Midwest drag racing scene. Scott Higgs, Blake Housley, the principals at Flying H Drag Strip outside of Kansas City, Missouri, have already made their presence known in the sport of drag racing. I mean, it's been one announcement after another, a new construction item after another. We got big screens, luxury suites, concrete racetracks, brand new timing system, aluminum grandstands. There has been no effort or expense spared in bringing world-class drag racing to the Midwest, courtesy of Blake Housley and Scott Higgs. I'm excited to welcome them to the show. They got one of their first major productions going on in just a couple of weeks, September 19th through 21st. Smackdown, the 150,000 to win pro mod shootout that's taking place at Flying H in just a couple of weeks. Blake, Scott, welcome to the show, guys. You doing all right?
You bet, Wes. Thanks for having us.
Oh, dude, thank you guys for joining me. Oh my God, I'm sure Blake is somewhere working on a race car. Of course.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. He's sitting here.
Take
a nap.
Of course you are. For those that don't know, Blake, I've known you for 20 years now, I think, right around. And I've seen you grow up. I watched you race with your dad in the ADRL Pro Nitrous days and all the various Quick 8 stuff before that. What's it like? I mean, you're out here competing at a high level. You're a part of the World Series of Pro Mod this past year or earlier this year. Now throwing your hat into the ring as something of a racetrack operator, still working on cars, building cars, finishing cars. I mean, it's got to be a little bit crazy to have seen all of this stuff come and various things go, all the different hot things and different trends that we've seen emerge in our sport. I mean, what's your take now as a fresh-faced track operator?
You have a whole nother appreciation to that whole side of it. I mean, it's the amount of work. There's just as much work that goes into the track side as we do on the race car side. And a lot of people don't see that. It's huge, the amount of work that goes into just getting the track ready week to week, let alone planning a race or organizing a race and everything else.
No,
it's Scott's fault he drugged me into this. So
yeah, it's Scott's fault. Yeah. It's
not lying there.
Yeah, Scott. I mean, so for those that don't know, one of the reasons I really wanted to have you guys on the show, because to be honest, I think we've all heard the stories. Like if you're involved in the sport of drag racing in 2024, you've probably heard about this new track that's coming in Kansas City. It started a few years ago, right? The words started to get around and people started to talk. And now we've seen a racetrack come to fruition, a world-class facility. It's no secret that you've spent a tremendous amount of money and really poured your heart and soul into creating a world-class facility in the greater Kansas City area. Scott, I'm just curious, like, first and foremost, thank you. We actually did an article in the magazine this month just identifying how it's an incredible thing that for a sport that's been around for 100 years, that we still have people that are as passionate as they were 100 years ago, making massive investments in our sport. But I am curious, like, how did this whole thing come to be? Who got a drag racing hook in you? Because I want to high five them.
Well, I've always been into fast cars, loud cars. Let me say fast is relative. I was always a lower class street racer guy way back in the 80s. And I've always liked it. I kind of went down a road, started a business and got away from drag racing. And 2 years and a half ago, I went to Blake and I became friends with him when he worked at Terry Murphy Race Cars. And then he went out on his own. And I got hooked up with a couple guys, and maybe I should say their name, maybe I shouldn't, but they used to be with NHRA. And I went to Blake and said, hey, what do you think about this? And he says, if we do it, we're never going to race again. And I said, oh, no, we'll be racing every weekend. He was right. So, after thousands of hours of Blake and I talking, I bet I've talked to Blake on the telephone thousands of times in the last 6 months, I'm going to say. He was in it from the very beginnings. We decided to post for a meeting at my ranch in my barn, February 7th of 2023, I believe. And I told Blake, I said, we'll see how many people show up. It was at 7:00, and about 6:15, 6:30, there was 20, 30 people. I said, well, so much for the racetrack. And at 6:45, it was like the field of dreams. I mean, cars started coming up my half-mile driveway. We had the road blocked out front. I'm going to say there's probably 800 to 1,000 people in the barn. And one of my friends texted me and said, Scott, I've been in line to get in for 20 minutes. I'm going home. And it was stupid how many people showed up. And so me having to get a microphone, which I was not planning on, and speaking in front of all these guys, I told Blake, I got us in a bad spot here because now we have to do this.
We have to do this.
So that's how it started. And nobody believed us because they'd been promised a racetrack in Kansas City for 4, 5, 6, 8 years, whatever it was. And for whatever reason, it wasn't built. So, Wes, I don't know. I felt it was my turn, and I talked Blake into coming in with me, and we just decided if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. I wanted some guys like John Force, Ron Capps, all those top racers to be able to come and test or run. And so we made the track one of the longest in the country. And, a couple months ago, Mark Mickey went 220 in the 8th and pulled his chutes and never made it to the end of the track. He had to get pushed to the end of the track. So there's plenty of space for the fast cars to slow down and get off the track safely. So
yeah, it's an incredible thing because I don't know that people understand. I mean, I remember I actually had a conversation with a dear friend of mine yesterday, Tommy Johans from Pitmat USA out in Denver, Colorado. And we were talking about, the realities of Bandimere Speedway outside of Denver closing down. And we both like, you know, you all want to go, yeah, hopefully they sell the place and they can go build another one. But I don't know that I would wish that on my worst enemy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it all sounds good, but like with the cost of real estate property at this point in time, and the challenge that getting anything done at this point in time has become, I feel that we should be very thankful for the facilities we have, and we should be hyper supportive of the few new ones that are arriving, because I don't care. I don't know how much you're willing to share, Scott and Blake, but like, you've probably had 100 reasons not to do this, right? I mean, I'm sure every time you go out there, you could probably convince yourself to say, fuck it, right? I mean, like, this is a bad idea. But you continue forward because of you're passionate guys. And like, I think sometimes we as a sport fail to realize like how blessed we are to be surrounded by such hyper passionate people that will do this in the face of great odds or like really bad odds, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, when we built this, the price of everything was the highest it's ever been in the history. And I told Blake that, and I didn't have to tell him, he knew it. And I said, this is another reason we screwed up, is it's so expensive to build a track like this. And I could have shortened it up. I could have made it an 8th mile. But I told Blake, I said, I don't want any reason a racer says, no, I can't come to this track for whatever. So we built it as big as we could. And Kurt Johnson really was the mastermind behind the track itself. He was the leader, did a great job, you know, width, height, walls, track smoothness. I got to give it to him. I was paying the bills, but after the track, Blake and I would go out there and stand and scratch our heads and say, hey, what about the grandstands over here? Hey, what about the tower over here? And Blake would talk me into going to Bandamere, and we'd go measure kind of look at the towers and how it was set up. Then we went to Gateway and then we went to Norwalk to check that out. And we kind of took everybody's track, and this is how we kind of built. Tulsa was another one. Keith Haney, he helped us out a bunch. And so that's how we kind of put everything together. And
I love that story, because like, that makes me feel good, because I've got a lot of respect for what you guys are doing and have done. Obviously, Scott, you know, you're wildly successful across all these different endeavors. But it's like, that's how we've done so many things in our life, where it's like, if I see someone else doing it, I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to go do what they're doing. Right. Put my own spin on it, perhaps. Right. You know what I mean? And make it fit me. But I'm doing the exact same thing. Like, I tell people all the time, like, if they're making $1 million down the street with a lemonade stand, I'm not going to introduce prickly pear lemonade. I'm just going to sell lemonade. Like, clearly they're doing well, you know? So it's, I think that's a really interesting thing. And the last time we talked, Scott, we've got the luxury suites, like the Badass Tower finished. We've got grandstands. We had multiple big events already in 2024. You've got a big screen coming together, or maybe up now. It's done now. Yep. Okay. And I guess, so that brings us to the biggest thing on the docket in 2024, the Smackdown event in conjunction with the Keith Haney and the Midwest Drag Racing Series. We got $150,000 up for grabs in Pro Mod. I got to tell you guys, at first I was like, these sons of bitches are going to make me pay more money. I'm going to kill all these guys the next time I see them, you know, but the real truth is, I want Pro Mod guys. Pro Modified, let me use this as an opportunity to like get on my soapbox that I seem to stay on top of. But Pro Mod is the future of drag racing. I went to the U.S. Nationals this last weekend, and I had a lot of people pissed off at me or having something to say because I made my post the other day that I would trade 37 Top Fuel cars for one Pro Mod. But I stand by it, my friends. I stand by it. I mean, this is the healthiest class in all of heads-up drag racing right now. This is a multi-purpose door slammer. I mean, you can go run for $150,000 at Scott and Blake's house. You can come down to Vic and I's joint in Florida and run for big money. You can race at Jim Halsey's race and race for big money, or you can put radials on your car and go run Donald Long's Lights Out, No Mercy. You can go compete in that series. You can go down here to Big Jake's race this weekend at XRP. Like, it's a car that you can get a lot of use out of. There's a lot of different places to race it. And you guys are contributing to like my vision for the future is that I want Pro Modified. Like, if it's the last thing I do, Pro Modified is going to be the top of the pecking order The top, we're going to be the kings of the jungle. Right now, I think we're arguing, right? Top fuel funny car, pro stock, blah. Nope, we're fitting to change that. Pro mod is the top. It is the king of the jungle, and it takes events like this to make that happen. So thank you guys for sticking your neck out and doing what you're doing for the sport of drag racing, specifically fast door slammer drag racing.
Well, two things. First of all, Wes, yeah, you get on a soap opera or whatever. You get on the stairs, but you deserve to. You're the powerhouse in drag racing. I mean, Drag Illustrated. I look at that magazine and wonder, how in the world do you even do this? There's a lot that goes into it. You've been around for a long time. You're not afraid to get on, the camera and tell everybody what you think. Sometimes there's collateral damage in that, but hey, I stand behind a guy like that all day long rather than somebody that cowers in the corner and gets on Facebook and makes a couple posts. So you're the real deal. That's number one. Number two, we're not trying to compete with anybody. It's my ignorance. I threw out $150,000. I've just thrown a big number out. I'm not trying to take away from Victor or you guys in Bradenton. Matter of fact, after this, we're going to work together on these, and we're going to make it a big, huge event. Wintertime in Florida and summertime, if we can stand it, in the Midwest. And we're really excited about that if we can pull that off. So,
I don't think I got to tell you, man, this is what it takes, is like fired up people that are willing to stick their neck out. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I try to remind people all the time, the last thing I want to do is every week for the last 10 years, get on YouTube and run my mouth or whatever. But someone's got to do it. You know what I mean? It's someone's got to do it, and I recognize that my client base and my customers and my racers, they're Blake Housley. They're working somewhere right now. They're trying to, get shit done so that they can afford to go racing this weekend. Pro Mod, we're in this like kind of precarious position where there are good money races and there's opportunity, but the class itself is more expensive than it's ever been. So it's like we're in this weird moment, and I do think that we're going to work through it. And if we can keep the ETs and the speeds in check, and we can keep these cars from getting any faster, and we can focus on competition and not setting records, I honestly think that we've got 10, 20 years ahead of us that we can really do something big here. I mean, I try to remind people all the time, 25 years ago, cage fighting was illegal in 49 states in the union.
Right.
Now the UFC is one of the biggest sports in the world. You know what I mean? Like, you can't tell me that the great American motorsport, everybody's drag raced. Everybody, man, woman, young, old, you've all whipped up to a stoplight. You know what I mean? And looked over at somebody and said, not today. Yeah, right? You know what I mean? Everybody's done it. So it's like, there's no reason in the world that our sport lags behind and kind of sucks hind tit the way it does across the board. And we can fix that, but it's going to take us all doing it together, man. And I appreciate it. I was looking through the roster of drivers, Blake. I mean, it looks like you're going to have plenty of killers there. You're going to have Derek Ward, Spencer Hyde, a couple of guys who've gotten the job done in a high stakes environment, 100,000 on the line. I'm curious, have you heard any of that? Because I will tell you that it's different when there's that kind of money up for grabs. It will, Scott, I know you know this from the bull riding and the rodeo world. Like, it's one thing to go ride for 5 or 10 grand, but it's a whole different thing to go ride for 100 or 150.
Oh yeah, Blake will be ready. One thing about Blake, he don't lay down. Yeah, he's friends with everybody, but any competitor, when you get in the ring, it's nobody wants to lay down on anybody or have anybody lay down on him. And Blake's not going to do it either. So he'll be ready. He'll have a couple tricks up his sleeve, I hope. I know he will. And so we're going to give everything. He's going to give everything he has for sure. Go ahead, Blake, and tell them.
I mean, so one of the things, kind of like what you said about the money we raced for, that's how this whole race got started, for one. Scott started racing with us, and he's like, man, he said, y'all spend all this money and race for a little bit of nothing. And the races you're trying to win, let's be honest, you're going to have to destroy a motor or two, or at the very least. You're going to have to run as hard as you possibly run it. And that's how the whole $150,000 come from, because he knows what the motors cost. And I remember we was in Tulsa, and I was talking to Keith about it. He said, we can't pay $150. Wes is going to go crazy. I said, well, it's not like we're competition. Scott knows how much a motor costs. He wants, Scott's exact words was, if you win this race and destroy it, he wants you to be able to leave there and go buy a new one to replace it. And that's basically how it all started. So
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and honestly, that was much my thought process. Whenever we did our first 100,000 to win race in Denver in 2017, it was like, it was very similar where it's like, you know what this stuff costs. And you know these guys are going to go out here and run the rods out of this thing, you know. And at the time, I'm making them tow to freaking Denver and race in an environment they've never, ever raced before. You know what I mean? At 10,000 foot of elevation or whatever. I know they're going to tear some stuff up, so the money's got to be big, you know. And I think that, you know, I honestly think as we move forward slowly but surely, oh my goodness, Clay Millican in the house. What are you in an Uber, Clay?
You're not going to believe this. I am being driven right this very moment to Lutz Race Cars by Emily and Aaron Reeves of Flying Sparks Garage.
No joke.
No joke. Look,
oh, it is. Hey, what's going on, Emily? Oh, my goodness. You got the YouTube influencer world cornered. I hope you guys drive safe because we can't have anything happen to that group of people.
That's why I'm in the back seat.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal.
First time.
Clay, I'm finishing up with Blake Housley and Scott Higgs from Flying H Drag Strip. We got to get, you know, he's already had a couple top fuel cars, or at least one. Scott Palmer made a lick right down Broadway at Flying H. We got to figure this out, Clay. We may need to get that Arby's Parts Plus Summit, Edelbrock Hot Rod out to the Midwest. I mean, it's not too far from Memphis going up to Kansas City.
It's not that far. And you forgot to add in there U.S. National Championship winning top fuel dragster.
U.S. Nationals Championship winning top fuel driver. Unbelievable. Well, hey, Scott, Blake, I appreciate you guys, and I'm genuinely excited for you. Tell us, I mean, I know you guys will be parking cars early in the week. You got testing leading up to the event. Give us like a couple of details as we're headed into the Smackdown and where everybody can follow along and make sure that they're able to get any information that they need to be a part of it.
Go ahead, Blake.
So first off, we got to thank Keith Haney and Midwest for all they've done. I mean, they've handled a large portion of this to make this even possible. So their site, our Facebook, we're going to have Flo will be live there. We start testing Tuesday. We have testing Tuesday, Wednesday, and part of Thursday. Then we have 2 qualifiers Thursday night, 2 on Friday, and the first round eliminations on Friday night.
Fantastic, man. I'm excited.
A lot of racers are coming in Saturday and Monday. Or I'm sorry, Sunday and Monday. Sunday and Monday.
You guys are going to have your hands full, man.
Yeah.
We're probably looking for parts about Thursday.
Look at these events, man. I'm telling you, and I've fought this at World Series where it's like, I know the pre-race testing is so important, but you also do concern yourself with like, man, it becomes a war of attrition.
Yes.
Because it becomes a deal about who's still got enough shit left in their trailer to go race, you know?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's a crazy thing. Well, hey, Scott, where are you going to be hanging out? Somewhere fancy?
What do you mean? I'll be right on the track.
Okay, well, I'm going wherever you're going.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not going to be air conditioned.
Okay, fine, fair enough. No, well, we're going somewhere nice for dinner or something afterwards.
That's the deal.
Okay, lock it in, you guys. Well, hey, if there's anything you need from us or anybody at Drag Illustrated, let us know. We're excited to see you guys. Vic and I will be there with bells on. JT's coming over. JB Hamlin, a bunch of my Midwest guys will be there. So we're happy for you guys and excited. Let us know what we can do to help, and we'll see you at the drag races.
Thanks for having us, Wes. Appreciate it.
Of course, brother. Anytime.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you, guys. Talk soon. Clay Millican, I figured you'd be in a limo. Shouldn't they have you in a limousine?
Well, I don't know. You know, I am not complaining. I mean, I've got 2 pros driving me around. We're going to work on an amazing project that we got going for YouTube right now. It's world changing. I know we're here to talk drag racing, but I'm just going to tell you real quickly. Emily, Aaron, Jeff Lutz, everybody at CRC and Edelbrock, they jumped in on this car that we're building for SEMA. And it is going to be auctioned off after the fact, and all the money from it is going to scholarship funds. But let me tell you about this car real quick. 1957 Chevrolet. Imagine that. Jeff Lutz involved with a 57 Chevrolet.
Right.
Gen 3 Hemi, supercharged by Edelbrock, running on, get this car is going to run on hydrogen, thanks to Mike Copeland and Arrington Performance. It will be the first ever sold hydrogen hot rod that's ever been sold to the world. No joke.
So what
hydrogen
was the inspiration behind that? I'm just curious. Like, did someone say, let's build this car and make it run on hydrogen, or like?
You know, Mike Copeland's already got a few of them out there. He's done an LS hydrogen powered truck. He's done a Ford, and so now we're doing a Mopar, obviously, and a 57 Chevrolet. And he's basically got this technology. He's a brilliant man. I mean, he's a 26-year GM engineer, so it's not like he's no dummy by no stretch. And for everybody that have already watched the videos that think we're going to blow the world up, it don't work that way. This thing runs just like a normal car. And I can't believe he's going to allow us to sell it, but the reason he is because it's for scholarship funds for tech schools. Man. And I'm excited about this whole entire build. I mean, we did the GTO last year that sold and provided 10 scholarships for tech schools, which was amazing that, this group of people are coming together to build this thing. And it's just a cool project. I'm excited just for the fact that this is a way to keep the internal combustion engine going, because the only thing that comes out of the tailpipe of a hydrogen powered anything is water. That's it. Mike Copeland said this, and I put it at the very front of my first video. He said, I have a 7-year-old grandson that I was afraid may not be able to drive our hot rods. And that's where he come up with the hydrogen from, because he also said there's nothing more beautiful than a V8 engine up on high RPM singing, and he wants his grandson to have that.
I've got a lot of respect for that.
On.
I mean, because honestly,
too.
I think that it's funny. I wasn't going to, this is switching gears here a little bit, but I actually got an email from a reader this morning in the magazine, a reader of the magazine. And it was this, I don't know this gentleman. His name's Buddy Cousins, and I won't read his writing because I don't have his permission to do so. But he wrote an article called The Last Hot Rod Race. And it's like a really well-written article, to be honest, that he submitted to us. But it basically talks about how he feels like the good old days of drag racing. He's worried about, are we going to be burning nitro 10 years from now? Are we still going to be standing around choking on the fumes of nitromethane during a warm up in the pits? And I understand the concern, and I try not to really get involved in that, because who knows, like a plane could land on my house tonight too. You know what I'm saying? Mistake my doorbell for a runway, and there we go. But I do recognize that. And I think that's pretty incredible. What Mike Copeland is saying to you is that, like, he doesn't want that to go away. He wants to be able to make sure that his grandkids or whatever are going to be able to experience a hot rod. And it does make you think a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't want to go. I don't think they're going to go away in my lifetime, but for the kids coming, we got to start somewhere. And that's kind of what Mike's been working on, I think it's great. I mean, I understand we got to protect the environment and all that, but give me a good old V8 at high RPM screaming, man, just like he was saying,
Fine. You know what I mean? Like, it rained today. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. I think everybody's a little bit too worried about it. I mean, shoot, the planet's been around for a long time. We're fine. Let's just we probably aren't burning enough nitro, Clay. That's probably the problem.
I have no question that nitro cures a lot of things. It clears your sinuses.
100%.
The only thing nitro hurts is your pocketbook and your hearing.
Yeah, it's a cure for erectile dysfunction. I mean, there's a lot of different uses for nitromethane.
That should be a T-shirt, by the way.
It should be, man. Like, you don't need Hims. You need nitro. You don't need a Blue Chew. You need nitro, man. Well, hey, let's talk about, seriously, Clay, I want to say congratulations. I've told you this before, and I mean it every time I say it, that there is nothing better for the sport of drag racing than when Clay Millican wins. We need people like you having success. You're verbose, you're well-spoken, you're a character, you're beloved, you're a fantastic ambassador for our sport, and I get goosebumps and get excited every time I see it starting to happen, because I know that it's going to give us several weeks of news cycle. It's just like they're talking about in the election, like who's winning the news cycle. Well, it's like we need Clay Millican winning the news cycle. And it's been fantastic to see this whole thing. Why don't you just give us – you said something that I thought was really impactful. I took some notes watching along on Sunday or Monday. I was only able to be at the track just for one day on Friday. My grandma passed away late Friday night, and so I flew home, and I'm actually headed to Missouri tomorrow. But anyways, you said something on the broadcast, Clay. You said a lifetime of work. That's what you said to him, man. That's what this trophy, that's what this Wally means, what it represents, a lifetime of work. Can you just expound on that a little bit? Like that, because I think people, it's difficult to understand how significant 3.75 seconds can actually be to a human being. But provide us some context. I mean, quitting your job, going all in on racing, the vote of confidence from your wife, Donna, like how try to put into words being at this juncture here in 2024.
Well, I mean, you know, the people that are longtime watchers of this show, you know, they kind of know my story. You know, I grew up in little bitty Drummond's, Tennessee, which is where I still live. You know, grew up in a grocery store. Mom and daddy didn't have no money, you know, and but we all love drag racing, the whole family. And we went, not just drag racing, we love motorsports. I mean, my oldest son named Kale, if that tells you anything, after Kale Yarbrough. You know, so we love motorsports. And my whole life down to one thing, you know, Peter Lehman gave me an opportunity in a Top Fuel car, and that's been 26 years ago. There's been a lot of amazing nitro burning in between there. A lot of incredible highs and some amazing lows, you know. So for everything to come together on Monday the way it did was an absolute total lifetime to get to that moment, that final round. And I'll be completely honest here. When we rolled under that archway, it was this, Wes. I didn't see the cameras. I didn't see the people. I didn't see anything. It was right. You know, you have those moments. What is the word for that? Moment of clarity. Yeah. And I know that's a big thing for somebody like me to say, because I'm always running my mouth and just bouncing off the walls. But it was just quiet. It was nice. And I don't even know that at that very moment, like, that I had to win. It was just like, I am in the final round of the U.S. Nationals. It doesn't get any bigger than that in nitro racing. That is the top of the top, you know, and it's a career-making kind of thing. You know, I think it was Ed McCullough, please correct me if I'm wrong, that
I
said,
think this is correct, yeah.
I don't care how many championships you've won, you've done nothing unless you've won the U.S. Nationals.
Yeah,
and,
I got goosebumps.
I mean, I honestly do too. Emily's got the car so cold I got a sweatshirt on, but I have goosebumps. But that rolling under that archway was, I'll never forget that, you know, and I'll also never forget tears running down my face as the parachutes were still out when I saw the wind light come on, you know, and the rest of it is just a nonstop blur that has just been an amazing, whatever this is, 3 days
so
now.
Take us through it. I mean, solid run, get out in front, pull away, they lose traction, right? Did you know you had him? Like, did you have enough peripheral vision to know before you saw the light come on along the guard wall there that you had him?
I would say going past half track, the grin was starting to get bigger, because I've drove these things thousands of runs. And usually if it's a close race, you may not can see them because the sides panels are so tall, but you can hear them. Yeah. And typically when you start to see the front wheel, in your mind, you think, man, it's really, really close. But normally if you can see the front wheel, they're over a half a car length ahead of you, or right there at that. And I didn't hear them and I didn't see him. And so, yeah, I kind of had an idea that little light on the wall over there was about to come on. And if you watch it, not that I have maybe 10 times, that's probably true, you'll notice the car's wiggling around quite a bit. That's because at that point, I'm 100% looking into the right lane. And the parachutes were horribly late because I didn't care. I knew I just won.
Oh, Clay, man. So you're coming around the turn, you know, you come out wide, you make the turn, and you're starting to piece this together. But like, tell us about, like, looking at it through the lens of, you've introduced me to Rick Ware, your team owner. For those that don't know, what a guy. Like, I'm actually a big fan. I did not know this man from Adam a year ago. I feel like I've got to know him a little bit. made a massive statement getting involved with the sport of drag racing. He's got his hands in a ton of different things and at a high level. You said this was the first time that he'd been on the starting line with you. So you've got a brand new sponsor on the car. The livery is completely wrapped in Arby's and masterfully done. I mean, you've got the A's on the butterflies. You've got the crew jerseys. Like, it was a high level showing up for Arby's. Considering the fact that your team owner is up there for the part of the win, and that's an important part. Like, seeing the reaction from the crew and the outpouring of emotion, like, this may have gotten a hook that may have been the hook that you needed to get in Rick Ware. I mean, so just tell me about this, all of this happening through the lens of a brand new sponsor, a relatively new team. I mean, what's this say about what you guys are doing right now and where this could go in the future?
You know, it was awesome to win 3 times last year for Rick Ware, but every time he showed up, it seemed like we went out first round. You know, it was just, I don't know why it worked that way. Things work the way they work, and we don't know why. But, you know, after we won first round, John from Arby's was there. He was there Friday night. I got to back up to Friday night, Wes. I can now, what is it? It's been a long enough time. I can tell the truth now. You know, what is that? The statute of limitations
has run out. Yeah.
So Friday night, I knew the man from Arby's was on the starting line. His first ever drag race, by the way. First ever.
Wow.
And he's from Indianapolis. He's been to the Indy 500 many, many times, but he had not been to a drag race. And so Rick Ware had put this thing together with Arby's. I know John's on the starting line Friday night. At about 2.8 seconds into the run Friday night, the buttometer said this thing's not happy. The ego meter said, you got Arby standing on the starting line. Drive this thing all the way to the finish line. And I did. And it blowed up. It was blowed up good. We didn't oil the racetrack and all those things, but I went right in the lounge to Jimbo and Nikki, and I'm like, y'all can kick me right square in the butt because I should have shut it off. I knew it. Both of them's like, we get it. You know, we get it. Sometimes you got to sacrifice a bullet to hit your target, you know?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what was going to happen after that. It's also Friday night, you know, but the thing still, Nikki come back and walked outside. I was like putting parachutes away and all that. And he said, you know, that could be the quickest 6-cylinder run of all time, 381 at 293, you know? So, so that was Friday night. Now let's move forward to Monday. John from Arby's had left, and he came back Monday. So he was there Monday morning, bright and early. And when we won first round, as far as Rick Ware was concerned, we had won the world. We had won, you know, we've done amazing. We won first round with him there, and the win lights just kept coming. So by the time we rolled into the final round, I'm mixing fuel, and Rick leans over and he's like, I don't care what happens. Today was a home run. Today's been a home run. I don't care what happens. Robbie Benton, president of Rick Ware Racing, he is like straight-laced all the time. He doesn't take no BS. I love him because he's the guy he's the hammer when you need him. You know what I mean? Like, he'll just call it the way he sees it. He's one of those guys. He comes over, puts his arm around my neck, and I'm in my fire suit. We're just kind of waiting. And he says, if you don't do anything different here, you will be the U.S. Nationals champion. He said, don't even think about it. How many runs have you made in your life? I'm like, lots. And he's like, so what is the U.S. Nationals? Don't do anything different. Don't try to cut a better light. Don't try to do anything. You just go do what you do. Okay. So when that win light came on, that is my everything. Going down that racetrack, driving that race car is what drives me. Like that acceleration, all those things. But there's so much of me that wishes I could be part of what is happening on that starting line. And it never fails that when I go back and watch those videos of my friends, my family, my team on that starting line, the tears just roll. I can't help it. I'm so proud and excited to see them that excited. Like if you watch Rick, he didn't even know what to do.
I know. I watched it. I watched it 10 times too, and I watched it a dozen times this morning preparing for this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't know what to do.
And to be honest with you, Clay, it's like, he didn't know. They don't know what to do. And
there he is. Look at him. He don't know what to do.
No, and if you think about this, like it is a real tragedy that drivers aren't able to be there for that moment. You know what I mean? Because it is this real weird thing. It's like, hitting the walk-off home run all by yourself in the parking lot outside of the stadium. You know what I mean? You don't get to be a part of everybody running out of the dugout, and it's, so it is it is kind of a tragedy, man. But I'm sure it is like a really rewarding experience to be able to, what's the word? Just know that they care so much about what you're doing, right? Like that's when you really get to see it. Like when you have that reaction and you're not there to watch, that's real. They mean that, and you deserve those type of moments, man. And it's an amazing thing. I am curious. You've mentioned a couple times John from Arby's. I don't know this guy. I'd like to meet him because real quick, I would like to bring my squad back. Those that don't know that I have, or those that don't know are about to find out that Wes has a little bit of a pretty complicated relationship with Arby's.
Oh boy, here we go.
We almost had a map in our office with push pins of all.
I'm a big Arby's.
But what's the number one item though at Arby's? Mozzarella sticks.
Now you always get Arby's has the greatest mozzarella sticks on the planet Earth.
Wes blames his youth, his
weight,
shape
my weight
as
issues
a youth on Arby's mozzarella sticks
and my mom's mozzarella sticks. But I'm telling you, Arby's is probably the greatest food in the history of the known universe. Like just saying, like if you could only eat one fast food restaurant for the rest of your life, would you not want it to be Arby's? I would.
I'm not going to say no.
Real strong
that's
argument.
For sure.
Yeah. We drove from Valdosta, Georgia to Kirksville, Missouri, and only stopped at Arby's restaurants.
We did it as a challenge. JT and I got trapped in Valdosta during one of Donald Long's races, so I decided to rent us a car and we're going to drive home. And I told him, I said, we're only stopping at Arby's on the way home. That's the only thing we're going to eat. And so we literally only stopped at Arby's the whole way. I mean, between beef and cheddar, you got the French dip, you got the mozz sticks. I mean, I do get concerned, when they add all this stuff to the menu.
Yeah, they got like a rotating menu to add to.
I like
a
that
solid base menu, but all that stuff's good too. How did that deal come about with Rick Ware? Because that was was it like a late breaking deal? Because we didn't really hear it's like a big unveil.
I actually, whenever I didn't hear back from you, I told JT, I said, I bet Clay's mad at me because we didn't put out a story about the Arby's car. I said, but I didn't know. I said, I bet Clay's mad, and that's why he's not texting me back, because I didn't know. I'm like, I genuinely didn't know. And I said, if I would have known, we would have done whatever he wanted. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have had whatever he wanted,
So it's very possible that Mike knew about it and before I did. It's really possible because I did not know we were doing this car until, I'm going to say, Monday, not like yesterday, but a week ago. I was FaceTiming with Jesse Snyder, our car chief, because there were some things in the cockpit I wanted moved around, and he's like, "Oh, hey, did you see the car?" I'm like, "No, I hadn't seen that. I didn't know anything about it." And there was no press release, no unveil, none of that, because I had a lot of NHRA people coming over there like, "Hey, what is this?" We were basically just kind of threw it out there.
And, hey, man, I like it. And it didn't not work. You know what I mean? It didn't not work because I know there was a ton of people. When I saw it from afar, I go, oh, shit. How did I not know about this?
Once I saw it, I was like, there has to be some huge announcement press release coming out, especially when everyone's announcing their cars. Like we saw the caps unveil.
Yep.
We saw, obviously, the huge TSR unveil on Pat McAfee's show. So I thought something was coming. Was that a strategy or like how did that – and what's the relationship with Rick and that company? Is that involved in the other racing endeavors as well, or like how? I mean,
Yep.
without spilling the beans too much, how does that something like that come together?
Well, I would say we did not hurt our chances of that becoming a longer term relationship.
Amen.
And
That's what we need.
I got to tell you, you'll love this, Wes. I did not know you were such a fan of Arby's, but
yes.
So Monday night, I keep wanting to say Sunday night. Monday night, John invited the entire team, wives, girlfriends, you name it. And he rented a section at, is it Yard House, downtown Indy?
Yeah.
Yard House,
Yeah.
like fancy, nice.
Yeah.
So he rented like a whole big section just for us. And when I showed up, there is Arby's roast beef on the table everywhere.
What I'm talking about, man. I didn't know there was other food than Arby's roast beef until I was about 22. That's what I thought. I thought that was the only thing there was. You know?
And I told him, I'm like, man, I don't know what to tell you other than this is not normal what we did today, you know? And he's like, you do this every weekend, right? And I'm like, I hope so, you know, but, you know, Rick and Robbie, they're always doing cool, creative things. And I did not know about it until Monday, a week ago, like FaceTiming with Jesse. But if you think about it, it's so cool what Rick has the ability to do. There's really nobody else because we all know Stewart Haas Racing's going away. So Rick can go to an Arby's and say, hey, how about you do the U.S. Nationals and we'll do, you know, whatever. You pick the race, Bristol night race, you name it. He can do all those things. You want to do the Indy 500? Okay, we can do that too. You know, so
that's the power of someone like Rick. Like we talked about with Tony Stewart getting on Pat McAfee's show, only he could pull that off. Whereas only someone like Rick and has those connections outside of drag racing to be able to pull something like that in. And anytime anyone is concerned or you know, that this is an outside influence coming into drag racing, those are the types of positive things that we need. We need, as drag racing, we need more of that. We need more of that outside influence from these guys that know how to do it in these other disciplines, you know? So I'm all here. I'm here for it.
Well, I mean, Clay, do you remember, it's been probably almost a decade ago, maybe, you and I met up in St. Louis, and we were talking about trying to recreate like kind of the Castrol super team of a Top Fuel car, a funny car, a pro stock car, a pro mod car, a pro stock motorcycle, like, and just spread that investment across a slew of people and kind of create, you know, a brand ambassador deal. But that's the opportunity you're talking about now, where like they can be involved with Rick Ware Racing and kind of go after all these different markets. They can be involved in, you know, go after the drag racing demo, go after the motocross demo, go across the IndyCar demo, the NASCAR demo. I mean, it's a really powerful place to be for Rick Ware. I think it's awesome.
It is. And I'm a little biased probably, but that was a good looking race car. I mean, it too, just popped. It just popped so well.
Kind of like the same type of pop you get when you make that first bite into an Arby's mozzarella stick. And you get a little bit, you get that little bit of grease, right? And there's some remnants of that. They have the really high quality Hardy ranch. In case you don't know, that Arby's also is world-class ranch dressing. So
the horsey sauce is pretty good.
Ooh, it's you really can't go wrong with Arby's. So
can we bring back the, what was it, like 5 for 5 or 10 for 10 roast beef?
5 for 5.
Can we go back in time, pre-inflation?
My dad and I used to go into Arby's on the way home from the races or whatever, because we would always stop there. My dad's a big Arby's aficionado as well, and we'd whip into these places, and we would literally joke that they're going to hang up pictures of us, like, do not serve these two, because we'd go in, we hadn't eaten all day. We've been at Wentzville Raceway and outside of St. Louis since 4 a.m. It's 200 degrees out, haven't eaten anything, and we go to Arby's at midnight or whatever, and you'd order $97 worth of food for 2 or 3 guys, and they're like, you want 12 half-pound roast beefs? Like, yeah, with mayo. And then we want 6. I mean, it was so funny, man. Yeah, it's I love Arby's. It's fantastic. We need brands like that involved in the sport of drag racing. Clay, congratulations,
now they have the meats,
man.
Now they have the meats. What's going to be?
We have the meats.
Clay's got the meats. That's what I texted
Nitro.
Clay.
Got the meats.
I said, Clay's got the meats, man.
Yeah, I got the meats.
It's fantastic.
So I got to tell you one other quick thing. that I'm probably glad I didn't know till after the fact, but I didn't even think about it because it was no way that this was correct. Jim Oberhofer, Nicky Bonifant, a bazillion years of racing between the two of them in Nitro. Not either one of them had ever won the U.S. Nationals. Ever. It's hard to believe.
Joke.
It's hard to win that race. I
Wow.
mean, there's a lot of guys that will go down in history. Great crew chiefs, have all the success, but are missing that on their resume. And so now it's on those guys and yours.
And to further it one more, the last and only other person to win Top Fuel from the 13th spot was Terry McMillan in 2018. The crew chief in the other lane, Jim Oberhofer, tuning Doug Coletta.
No,
that's just cool. Yeah,
that is
that's pretty cool,
man.
Yeah.
No, I mean the whole weekend. I mean, if you really look at it, it was a fantastic weekend for the sport of drag racing. I mean, it was hot, and we bought out some weather and whatnot, but just like across the board, all of the sportsman racing that we had, 900 some odd cars on the property, all sorts of people there, stands full of people. You really can't ask for much more than we had this past weekend, man. Clay, like I said, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. There's few things better for the sport of drag racing than Clay Millican in the winner's circle. We hope to see you do a whole lot more of it this year. Congratulations on everything that's happening. Arby's, Ware Racing, everything you guys got going on. Parts Plus, Edelbrock Summit, all these companies that have supported you for years and years. Congratulations, man, and we can't wait to see you do it again.
Thank you so much. And, man, I always love coming on here, especially after we won. And this has got to be the most unusual thing I've ever done being on the show, riding in the back seat of a car with Emily and Aaron Reeves driving me. And we are 5.5 miles away from pulling in at Lutz Race Cars.
All right, we'll get your ass to work. All right, buddy. If you need anything from us, let us know. And God bless, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
See you, Clay.
Right.
Clay.
Have a good one.
Hey guys, I do want to take a quick second here to remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that protect and perform better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your motorcycle, your tow rig, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. I just topped my own hot rod off 598 cubic inch big block Chevy with a fresh 7 quarts of 0-20 weight Redline oil, and I'm ready to go make some passes, guys. How about Yellow Bullet Nationals? One of the things that we didn't get to talk about, we've obviously had a full show talking about the upcoming Smackdown event at Flying H Dragway, talking about the U.S. Street Nationals. I did reach out to Monty Miko. For those that don't know, JT, Mike, I did try to get I tried to get Monty Miko, the founder of yellowbullet.com, but he that'd have
been a coup right there, man. That's
like
been full circle right there. If we could get Monty.
I'm going to get him. He thinks he may be able to join us next week. And I told him if he's willing, I would still be willing to do it, even though we would lose a little bit of the timeliness. I do think it'd be fun to a little, wax nostalgic.
Well, I think we're also going to try to have Ken Cortuccio, U.S. Nationals winner, on next week as well. JT's graphic that he made, hoping that we could get Ken on this week, can't go to waste. So we have to use that next week.
We have to.
We got to talk to Ken about that. Really cool moment. Also,
let's go ahead and throw that up real quick because you can't really ask for much more than this. Ken Cortuccio, right Mike Stavrinos in the final round at Indy.
How about Mike going? That's a car that was a bare chassis that was like dug out of the attic or something that won a championship several years ago.
Well, I mean, let's think about this. 008 in the final at Indy. I mean, obviously the car didn't make the run he wanted. I've been getting to know Mike a little bit. We intend to have him involved with the Drag Illustrated Winter Series later this year and early next. But Mike and I have been talking quite a bit, and the guy's a race car driver. I mean, I think it's fantastic to see him.
He drove the shit out of the winner's circle in the finals.
He really did drive.
I mean, to see how out of shape it was and how he pedaled it, it still was. I mean, only about a car length or so behind Ken there. I mean, for a pro mod, NHRA pro mod, that's a hell of a driving job.
Make it up here. Ken, you told me that you have been digging deep all day in that final to hold a Wally here at the U.S. Nationals.
You can see the emotion, man. I love it.
It took everything. It took a lot of belief and a lot of good people. Scott Tidwell last year.
We need some volume here, T.
Yeah, I'm turning it up a little bit here.
I was ready to quit racing at the end of last season, and Scott and bringing in Stroud, Chris Terry, they said, let's just give us a shot, because I wasn't having fun. And I thought I was just getting old, but it's not that. It's now I'm having fun again with a great group of people, my whole team, my wife. I love her so much, and all my kids are here. But I have to say one thing. Scott Tidwell, I love you to death, but I'm giving this trophy to Chuck and Nita. They lost their daughter at the beginning of the season after a long battle of cancer, and I wanted to win for them all season long so bad. So Scott might be mad, but this is going home with them.
Wow.
Cool interview, man. Yeah. A lot of emotion there.
Dude,
I didn't know. I didn't know that
big...
Ken was, considering quitting racing, and I mean, because he's had success in recent years, but another great emotional interview. And I've met Chuck that he's talking about there, drives for Scott Tidwell. Great dude. And they had a really awful tragedy there with his daughter passing away recently. So really cool deal from that whole team. And to see Scott Tidwell, one car burns to the ground the week prior, and then the other one is in the finals and wins the U.S. Nationals.
I don't know. I mean, I think
very deserving for that team.
Very
for
deserving
Scott,
for that.
No one has done more behind the scenes with less credit and praise than Scott Tidwell. If you see it, the whole NHRA Pro Mod series, from Alabama International Raceway in Steele, Alabama, to the Radial Outlaws series, to the NHRA Pro Mod Drag Racing series, to the World Series of Pro Mod, to everything. You're exactly right. Few people have done more with less credit given to them than Scott Tidwell. This is a guy that does it for all the right reasons. He's an old comp eliminator guy. He's been around this sport forever. I mean, I've heard his name for as long as I've been alive. And it's fantastic to have someone like him involved with our sport right now and really giving opportunities. Like, I'm so thankful that we've got Lyle Barnett in a car. I'm so thankful that we've got guys like Ken Cartuccio in a car. I mean, these are guys that JT, that's one of JT's big bitches, right? For the last 10 years or whatever. It's like, it drives him crazy when the most talented guys aren't in cars because they can't afford it or whatever the case may be. And guys like Scott Tidwell make that a reality. They put the most talented, best guys and gals in cars and give them a chance to win. And no, it was a hell of a weekend across the board. How about that first round matchup between Lyle Barnett and Stevie Jackson? I thought that was some cool shake on bake crime, right? Just to see. Are those guys doing their show this week? I guess
I
maybe
hope so.
Because it's a shortened week. I don't know if they are, but yeah, that's going to be interesting to hear some banter back and forth between those two guys about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. And how about Andy Jensen and just like the whole thing? I mean, we could spend 4 hours talking about how badass of a son of a bitch Jim Halsey is. 358, back-to-back 358. I mean, this guy is I gotta look at
the numbers, but that first 58 that he went, we were talking about it in Slack, like right off the trailer Q1. I mean, not the trailer.
358
he's been testing.
Yeah,
but that number actually tied Doug Reisterer for the quickest nitrous slick tire pass in history. And then he went, didn't he go a little bit quicker on the second one?
I believe so.
I don't know if I've got my numbers in front of me here. So as of right now, I believe that is the quickest nitrous slick tire pass, and I have to look at the speed. He already owned the speed record from Bradenton in 2020, and then his speed, I believe, it has now eclipsed that. It's not technically the PDRA record, but the overall overall nitrous record, slick tire, mile per hour, and ET record. I believe he holds both of those now. I'm not Brett Kepner. I have to confirm with Brett on all that.
I was blown away by it. There's a handful of things I want to touch on here before we end the show. One, just get your guys' reaction. I'd like to get Monty Miko on the show next week. Maybe we can have a handful of the winners on from Yellow Bullet Nationals. Just so much to cover in a relatively short amount of time. So I apologize that we can't get to quite everything that happens in the space. But Yellow Bullet, huge turnout of cars, typical, a turnout at a Yellow Bullet event. Tip of the cap to Jim Halsey, everybody up there, Monty Miko, David Miko, the whole crew, Eric, Kathy, everybody that's involved with making that event go round. It was great to watch the drone shots pour in over the weekend and see the place packed full of people. I honestly think I'm going to forego the U.S. Nationals next year and go to the Yellow Bullet Nationals instead. I'm kind of casting that vision right now. Sometimes I need to put those plans on paper, and I think that would actually be a great thing for us, man, was to go out and be a part of the Yellow Bullet Nationals. It's always been a challenge for me because I've always felt pulled that I needed to go to Indy. But I tell you what, maybe
we've gone several years in a row now.
I've been to the NHRA US Nationals 20 years in a row. This was 20 years.
It's time to make a pivot. I like that.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to going to Yellow Bullet. You know what I mean? Hey, man, Tommy Kundrick from Mickey Thompson Tires used to do both. He would literally go hit Yellow Bullet for a couple of days and then go hit U.S. Nationals for a couple of days. And I'd be down for something like that. If we made it fun, we could create content around it. We could do a video.
How far of a
drive is it?
From Rising Sun to Indianapolis?
Hold on, I'm going to tell you. Rising Sun, Maryland to Indianapolis.
Let's take a guess. I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to say it's at least 8 hours. It might be 10.
I'll say 10.
9 hours and 42 minutes. 6 hours or 610 miles. I've driven that far.
Oh, we can go faster than that shit.
I've driven further than that asleep.
10
All
hours.
right. Well, let's just do the drive next year and make it fun.
Yeah.
Let's rent a cool car or something, and we'll just see how fast it can be done. We'll do it like a cannonball run type of situation.
Man, I can't tell you. I may have been as a kid, but I have not been to Cecil County in 2 decades or more.
I've only been up there once when Jim Halsey showed me the place back when we put him on the cover of the magazine. It's been 100 years ago. Jim Halsey, like the first time Jim
I went to
was on the
like
cover
every
of the
drag
magazine.
strip
He's
in
been
America.
on the cover a couple of times.
I went to every drag strip in America before I was about 10 years old and have little to no memory of most
remember
of it.
So not like seeing him again.
Brett Underwood. Brett's saying, I didn't realize, is that right? Is the Mike
that's
Starvinos, that's the old Caruso car?
No, the car that Stavrinos was racing previously, the gray one, was the Caruso car. That car that Stavrinos brought out this weekend is the old Mike Janis car that he won the championship with 2018, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's they shelved that other car for whatever
I saw
reason,
Alan Abbey Performance
put
on the side of that thing. AAP. It looks like Sheikh Khaled Al Thani maybe is making a return to drag racing. I think he would argue that he never left, but like maybe a little bit more of a high profile impression here in the sport.
So, man.
I'm excited about that.
I'm excited to see that AAP versus Bahrain rivalry fire back up. I mean, those guys have 3 cars out there now and are doing a ton of promotion with that on the Bahrain side. So cool to see Sheikh Khaled and AAP step back up there with that, with that rivalry between those two countries.
I will tell you, I did not like seeing ProMod run on Sunday. I did not like seeing ProMod run on Sunday.
Yeah, that was actually a decision. I don't know when or how that came about, but I think it was like we talked about, the NHRA ProMod group kind of came to NHRA and said that that's either what they wanted to do or were willing to do that, and that's how it went down.
Yeah, it's just a tough thing because when like for me personally, like those that don't know, I've had a really close relationship with the Real ProMod Association that was kind of like the driving force. Drag Illustrated was deeply involved in a lot of that stuff for 15 years, it seems like, and we fought tooth and nail to get the ProMod group involved in Monday eliminations. Like it was this huge push. Like all we wanted in the world for years and years and years was to see ProMod treated as part of the big show and get to race on Monday with Funny Car and Top Fuel and Pro Stock Motorcycle and, be a part of that history, that legend that is the NHRA US Nationals. And I was absolutely shocked. Like I understand the logistics and like, hey, let's go home. It's a holiday.
Have you heard any of the reasoning behind it? Like why they wanted to?
No.
I mean, obviously it was.
I've only heard that it was to get out of there. You know what I mean? Like,
and I also heard that part of it was that NHRA said, and I didn't watch the Fox broadcast, so if anyone can confirm this, that they were going to weave in some coverage of the final round or like semis and finals of ProMod into the broadcast on Monday to make it sort of appear that was happening alongside.
Yeah, from what I was told, the Pro Mod racers came to NHRA and asked for this specifically. That's what I was told. And I don't know if there was like some reasoning or some like if this then that type of situation, which I could probably get on board with. But just I do think it was a little bit like it's a slightly I mean, listen, I'm an event promoter and we all want to, you know, the NHRA is the tip of the sword though, right? And it's the highest level that exists in drag racing currently. And I won't be bashful that like I want the Drag Illustrated Winter Series and I want what we do to be in that same conversation, and I'm working day and night, and we are working day and night to ensure that's the case, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. But I do recognize the history and tradition that exists within NHRA US Nationals. I mean, Jay, you guys are both big stick and ball sports fans. I mean, JT, you're a big golf fan, a sport that is steeped in history and tradition.
Have you seen if you've seen the team that I have to root for year in and year out, I'm less and less of one.
But like being able to race on Monday on Labor Day at the NHRA US Nationals is like a real tradition. It's a real honor. And I was a little bit sad to see my Pro Mod brethren not included in that moment, and especially to know it was by choice. It's like I get it. Everybody wants to get home.
I think it. I think it probably sounded good on paper, but when you look at it in reality, this is what I. And again, I didn't watch the broadcast, so I don't know exactly how it was presented or if it was at all. But when those guys were running the finals, like you could see throughout eliminations on Sunday, first round, second round, semis, there were a lot of people in the stands because they were being, you know, woven in with the fuel classes and with pro stock. But then by the time the finals rolled around, which was after the last round of pros on Sunday, there's nobody in the stands. So here goes these guys running in the finals. Stands are emptying out. So unless you avoid showing that on the broadcast or you know, strategically edit that out, then that's just a bad look for the finals. So
right.
The other thing about Indy, the thing about Indy though, is that if you don't realize this maybe until you go there, they run like a class, a couple of classes on Wednesday. Those guys don't run again until like Friday. And then they'll run some classes on Thursday. Those guys don't run again until Saturday. So there's like these huge gaps of like literally day plus breaks for some of these classes. And I think Pro Mod may have been faced with something similar. And they were like, we ain't sitting around for a whole day. Just get us done on Sunday. So again, you know, but I agree with you. It's like you work that hard to get on the big stage and be treated like a pro. You need to be included in that winner's circle ceremony. We saw it. Where did we see it? Where the Pro Mod winner jumped on the at Epping. Remember, Mason Wright won his first Wally and rides back up the to the starting line on the back of the pickup truck with the pros because they have a shortened pro field I'm not
so
he got to be
well
no I'm not either. I'm saying but if you put yourself in the opportunity to be included with them, sometimes it works out. Like Mason Wright was got to be included with all the pro winners. He was on the broadcast, he was on the interviews. You have to be there for that opportunity to happen. Not, we ran our stuff yesterday and we're
like, I'm not making light of it at all. Obviously an incredibly challenging drag race and challenging conditions, all these things. But I will say that like, I want to see Ken Cartuccio on the stage with Austin Prock and Clay Millican.
Right. That's
and
what
Aaron.
I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, like I want to see him guilty by association. And sometimes that takes like, you know, things getting screwed up at work next week. I mean, it's NHRA
super strange
US
because
Nationals.
I think everybody wants to see that. Like, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say they don't want to see that. You know,
well, Pro Mod though is a unique. Somebody who's making a comment. A lot of those guys have businesses to get back to. It is kind of a unique scenario
that's also
where they run their own
that's
deal.
Not like, that's not a regular race or whatever. Like, take another fucking day off. Sorry,
that's true, right? You got
no. I mean, it's
you're only spending $500,000 or more just to be there. You probably can afford to take another day.
Well, I mean, and it really is. It's like, it's the tradition. It's respecting the tradition and understanding the opportunity that it presents. And like, that's the thing is it takes everybody, right? It takes all parties. I mean, we need fans, we need sponsors, we need manufacturers, we need facilities, we need, you know, racers, we need crew. I mean, there's so many people, the stakeholders that are required for this sport to be successful are innumerable. It's a lot of people, a lot of pieces of the puzzle. But like in that moment, it's like we've got to understand that here's this opportunity to be guilty by association and be part of that. And especially for a brand of drag racing that has struggled for acceptance for years and years and years and years and years. I mean, how many times have we heard people say that Pro Modified gets treated like the redheaded stepchild and blah, 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 and all these different things. And then it's like, oh, son of a bitch. Now we have this opportunity to not get that treatment, and we opt to take that treatment.
It's funny, right?
It's like, and it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, because there are people that I promise you fought tooth and nail. I mean, seriously, yelled and screamed, stomped their feet, slammed their hands down on table. I mean, blew up relationships trying to get Pro Mod to be a part of the race day festivities on Monday at the U.S. Nationals. And then here we are a few years later, and it's like,
it's a different deal now. Though,
we all just
right?
let us run on Sunday because we just soon get done and get home. You
those
know?
Guys, it feels like those guys were fighting for that, but the current group, I feel like is a different makeup. It's done very well with it. And I think it's honestly, it's probably as good now as it's ever been. And I think that they're not content, but like they're not pushing for that. We want more. We want more. We want more. I feel like they're very content with where they are right now. Saying that it doesn't mean that being
because even if they don't want more, they deserve it.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. And sometimes, I mean, and that's one of the biggest challenges.
Well, the early days
is like
the early days, though, I think it was treated like you're going to be a pro class. You're going to be a pro class. You're going to get there. You're going to get there. And now it's like this far along, you know, you can't. That ship has sailed or something. So it's kind of like it is where it is at this point. But I know in the early days, I mean, that's why we're not a good example because we weren't ever, especially in today's times, don't have the budget or weren't concerned with running quarter mile. But in the early days, like when we were running IHRA quarter mile and NHRA was just starting, you had guys that would cross over and do both series.
Right.
We never did. And I always asked even if we had the car and the budget at the time to go do a race or two, like at a Bristol or something like that, Atlanta, we never would. My dad said, I'm not going over there where we're the show over here, whether that be Super Chevy, ADRL, IHRA, we are the show. And I'm not going over there and being treated, you know, like I don't belong there just to say I raced an NHRA race. So he was always very staunchly against the whole.
My dad is
NHRA
staunchly against
thing.
it. Like, it's weird. Like, I talked to my dad the other day, and yesterday, and he was like, I want to go if I could. You know, there is a weird dynamic that exists there, and it's interesting because it's no one is like in the middle. It's like people that are like bleed the NHRA or people that wouldn't be caught there. It's a really, really interesting thing.
It is.
I mean,
it's so true.
But I got to tell you, I give him a ton of credit because I know the challenge that it would be to have 900 some odd cars on the property. And even if you have a week to run them, you're up against such a intense schedule that 1-2 things go wrong, God forbid they go wrong, like sequentially, it's so difficult to recover from that. I give him a lot of credit. I think that it was an incredible event by all accounts. I will say I was surprised that I didn't really feel like the 70th anniversary was really celebrated at the level that I thought it would be. Like,
I didn't
really see much any signage. Like, I only saw I think the logo like in 1 or 2 locations, and I'm going, man, 70 years. I think I'd have, I don't know, painted the entire place gold or something. What's the color for 70-year anniversary? Like,
I kind of bronze.
I mean, they're just.
I think 70 is. I mean, it's like 75. 75 is like the color or whatever. It felt to me like they were like next year when the tower's built and everything, then you can kind of come back out with all that. But it seemed to me like it was all right. Let's just do what we can this year with this, you know, with the shipping containers and all of that. Which how was that in person? The shipping containers and was that like still the talk of it, or was it like
it is what it is? You know,
that containers, bro. I mean,
it is what it is.
I mean, at one point, JT and I were standing down in front of it with Billy Meyer and Christy Meyer from the Texas Motorplex, and we're standing in some hay. And I'm like, these tower deals. The tower deal is pretty wild, right? She's like, yeah, pretty wild. You know what I mean? And it's, hey man, they're up against
it. It's cool to see them there as well, and getting.
It was great to see them, and they gave Billy a big. I mean, Billy was signing autographs.
That's the next stop, man. That I'm looking forward to. I'm already.
The best NHRA drag race of the year is the Stampede of Speed. The NHRA Fall Nationals.
I'll be at Charlotte
good.
In a couple weeks.
Charlotte's good.
Are you coming?
Vegas is good.
No? Are you coming for Charlotte?
I don't know. Brett
actually, you know what? I think Charlotte is the same weekend as
Charlotte's the same weekend as Flying H.
Same weekend.
Yeah. So I'm going to Flying H.
All right, I'll be at Charlotte.
Yeah, I can't go. It's my wife's birthday that weekend. It's Alicia's,
it is.
Alicia's birthday that weekend, and she turns 36. So,
yes, the 5th anniversary.
Or excuse me, 26.
Yeah, 15th anniversary of turning 26.
I don't think so.
So she's turning 26. So,
your birthday is a week later, right? It's exactly a week, right?
6 days.
6 days.
Yeah, we're born 6 days apart. So, yeah, it's crazy, dude. We went to kindergarten together, grew up on the same street. Now we're married with 2 kids.
The same zodiac sign?
Actually, no. I'm a Libra and she's a whatever the other thing is.
So the cutoff is right there between. All right, that makes more sense.
Is she a Gemini?
I don't know. I just know that like two people of the same zodiac, like that doesn't work.
No, let me type this in. September 21st, zodiac.
I don't believe in that.
No, she's a Virgo. Okay. The cutoff's the 22nd. August 23rd to September 22nd.
What are you? Yeah, what's yours?
I'm a Libra. So
what's that?
This one says it's represented as a young maiden carrying a sheaf of wheat. I don't even know what that is, but I know Alicia ain't carrying Libra. She is variously as a fertility goddess. I like the way this is headed. Okay.
All right.
Virgo season, she said.
Okay, fair enough. I'm here for it. It's Virgo season, baby. And fertility season. So
quit.
Apparently.
Am I going to embarrass you, JT, your little sister?
Nah, not really.
I do. It is, man. I think so. Like everyone I know has a birthday in September. It seems like September and October.
You know what? There are a lot of birthdays in September and October.
You know what that is?
That's our parents were partying on New Year's, dude.
Yeah, New Year's or Christmas.
My dad probably must not have had a race that weekend.
Must not.
Must not have had somewhere else to be. Because he must not have had anywhere to race because he was making a baby. But hey, guys, seriously, great to see you. I've got to get on the road. Make more drag racers. We got to make more drag racers. I'm fitting to go drag racing right now. I got the old Corvette loaded up last night. I got to tell you, man, going drag racing is so much work. I mean, I was just telling Mike on the phone. I said, man, I had to have my ass kicked. In the last month, I've bought more tools and crap and worked. I mean, well,
it's like JT said, all you really do is work and want to work, even when you're on vacation or whatever. So the perfect hobby for you is a work hobby. And you got to fit that profile.
Well, you know what it's like,
have to love
especially
work.
Like loading up the truck and trailer by yourself. Like huge shout out to Brandon Pez and Cole Pez and the whole gang at PJS Racing and Weatherford,
Texas. Get nobody to help you.
Well, they were already at the racetrack.
You gotta
Alicia was trying to get Sophia to bed, so I'm at the truck or at the shop trying to get my truck and trailer hooked up, get it hooked up,
it'll get better
pulled around. Max is at band practice. So then I'm literally trying to load the thing up. I start to pull the car up into the trailer and I'm like, oh, I think it'll go up in there without jacking the trailer up. I think those headers are going to clear. Get almost over the hump.
Load the trailer by
then I got to freaking, so then I got to jack the trailer up, which fortunately I got a sick electric jack on the front of it. But anyways, jack the front of the trailer up, winch the car in, it's getting a little too close to this wheel well. So I'm letting go of the winch, a little cord, go crank the wheel a little bit.
That's a disaster waiting to happen, man.
Once you get that all squared away, though, it'll be much easier. Like, once you went once or twice, it'll be way easier.
JT, you've never been drag racing, clearly.
Well, I'm just saying it's going to get easier after he has all the shit and he has it where he needs
the trailer. You're not going and racing a pro mod. Just remind yourself of that. So this thing will be less maintenance, and you actually get to make several runs.
I've got my truck and trailer parked in front of the house right now so I can hook onto it and leave. Alicia's all worried the HOA is going to be mad at us. I'm like, well, whatever. I'm going to pay the bill. I'll pay the fine.
You got the trailer parked in the
trees.
No. I did try to put it in the driveway and realized that I was about to total the neighbor's house, my house, and the drive. So I gave up. But we'll be back at it soon. But hopefully we go fast tonight. So it'll all be good. Kenny Hubbard's out there having like a private test session. So I think Jimmy Dale, myself, we'll see who all. Jim Staples, the guy I bought the car off, is going to come out and meet us there. So yeah, it's loads of fun. I'm fitting to leave right now. Man. That's all that matters, right? Well, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us, and all of you watching around the world. We appreciate you guys. Huge shout out to Scott Higgs, Blake Housley, Flying H Drag Strip in Odessa, Missouri. Can't wait to see what happens next for this track. Of course, the fast approaching Smackdown event, Midwest Drag Racing Series Pro Mod points race, $150,000 to win in Pro Mod. And shout out to everybody. Congrats to all of our weekend winners: Austin Prock, Clay Millican, Aaron Stanfield, Gage Herrera, Ken Cartuccio, a world of sportsman winners across the board, as well as Andy Jensen and the whole gang and everybody that took care of business out at the yellowbullet.com Nationals. We'll be talking to you guys next week right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel and Facebook
Brett
page.
For all the cigars that he forced down us all.
Yep. Thanks, Brett, for all the cigars that we smoked in Indy. Huge shout out to Cruz Pedregon for having us at Cruising Car Show on Thursday night. And KB Titan Racing, Elite Motorsports, everybody that welcomed us into their pits, Debbie and the gang at Finish Line Consultants, the NHRA Pro Mod Series. It was great to see so many people. Vic Alvarez came all the way up from Florida, hung out, got to take in his first ever NHRA race, so that was exciting. And yeah, man, great weekend. And we'll see you guys right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel and Facebook page next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Appreciate y'all.
See ya.